Hello and welcome to Algebra 1, Chapter 6.8, and today we are graphing systems of inequalities. So it's been a while since we talked about a system, but remember a system is just two or more equations, or in this case inequalities, considered at the same time. So to graph a system, you are just going to graph each individual inequality on the same coordinate plane. So we have two inequalities here, and so if you remember from 6-7 what your steps are to graph an inequality. Step number 1, put it into slope-intercept form, so they both are. Step 2 is to graph it, so if we graph this top one here, we're going to start at 2 on our y-axis, and we're going to go up 2 and over 1. So I put in a few points here. And then you need to remember what type of line this is going to graph. So this is going to be a dashed line, so we're going to draw in a dashed line. And then you need to remember that inequalities involve shading. So if we pick a test point, so let's pick 0, 0 because we're not going through 0, 0, is 0 less than 2? Because 0 times 2 there would be 0, so you get plus 2. Is 0 less than 2? So that is true, and so we are going to then shade the side with the test point. And so here you just want to make sure that you shade really lightly. So I picked a light color here, but if you're shading with pencil, shade really lightly, because what's going to happen is that we're going to need to figure out where these two shadings overlap. Alright, so then let's graph the other one. Already in slope-intercept form, so we're going to start at -3. And our slope tells us to go down 1 over 1. Okay, or up 1, back 1. And this one is a solid line because it has that equal to part, so we're going to plot a solid line here. And then we're going to pick a test point. You can still pick 0, 0. It doesn't go through there. So is 0 greater than or equal to -3? That is also true. So now we're going to shade where that test point is, and we're shading that entire side of that red line. So not just where the other one was shaded, but that entire side of that red line. Alrighty, so then the answer is, where do these two shadings overlap? So they overlap in this kind of triangular region. So then what you've done is if you've shaded lightly to begin with, you come through and you're going to shade this area darker. So this green area here is the solution area. This is the area that works in both. And so that area needs to be shaded darker. And that's all you're doing. So you're graphing two or more inequalities on the same coordinate plane, and you're just going to shade darker where they overlap. So let's look at another example. So y equals 3. So remember that is a horizontal line. So the line y equals 3, and this is going to be a solid line. So here's the line y equals 3, and we want to graph the y values that are less than or equal to 3. So we're going to shade below it, and again remember to shade lightly. And then the other equation we're going to need to put into slope-intercept form and show that step so that you don't mess up. And I went ahead and changed it to an equal sign. So I'm going to graph this. I'm going to start at 1 on my y-axis and go down 1 over 1, or up 1, back 1. And again, this is also a solid line. So I'm going to come in here and do a solid line. This time I need to pick a test point. And so I'm going to pick 0, 0 as my test point. So if you plug that into the original, you're going to get 0 is greater than or equal to 1. That is false. So we're going to shade the other side. So we're going to shade everything over here. So you're kind of really ignoring that first line. Just act like it's not there and completely graph the second one. And by the way, I would suggest you shade as you go. Do not wait until you get to the end and try to figure out where to shade. Shade each line as you graph it. So then what we need to do is we need to come in though and shade darker where they overlap. And so right here then is where these two overlap. Okay? Alright, those are the only examples I want you to do now. Let me know if you have any questions, and if not, I will see you in class. Have a great day.